I'm feeling very, very blessed. I got my homie, Precious Price, in the building. I'm going to read her bio, and we're going to get straight into it. So Precious Price, make sure you add the price when you say her name. The 26-year-old real estate entrepreneur based in the city of Atlanta, Georgia. In 2020, she completed her first real estate build with a 300 square foot tiny home in the backyard of her first investment property. This build was shared and viewed by more than a quarter million users via the 3-part docuseries on YouTube titled Going Tiny. Make sure y'all tap in if you haven't seen that. Since then, she has planted her feet in the short-term rental space and is currently developing her web platform and community initiative. Landrift or Landrift or Landrift? Which one?
Landrift.
Okay, Landrift. All right. Welcome to the podcast, Precious. How you doing? How you living?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited.
Good. Okay, it was great to hear. All right, before we even get into the Airbnb and all of that, I do want the people to know, a little bit about you, like what you were doing before Airbnb. So can we get into that? Some people might not know about the strategy behind branding yourself, all that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it goes way back. It goes way back. Yeah. So I am based in Atlanta, as mentioned. My name is Precious Price. I'm based in Atlanta, Georgia. I actually moved to Atlanta back in 2018. So in 2018, that is when I actually started the strategy behind branding yourself, which is my podcast, which talks everything in regards to marketing and personal branding and a little bit of mindset as well. So I started doing personal branding where I got into, I would say, like the digital space via personal branding and helping people to really figure out, okay, how can they begin to monetize who they are online and just the knowledge that they know. So that is how it started. And prior to that as well, I was working full-time at a consulting firm doing digital marketing too. So once I left there and then I stepped into full-time, I was side hustling Airbnb for a little bit. And a lot of people might remember that as well, but I was side hustling Airbnb for a while I had my full-time job. And initially I started with an Airbnb back in 2019. I was not here in Atlanta very long at all. I started by just renting out my apartment. Super Bowl came here to Atlanta. And then once that happened, I realized just how much money was in this space. I'm like, okay, I think I want to do this like on a little bit of a larger scale. So I had continued to rent out my Airbnb, or not my Airbnb, but my apartment. And of course, that was not permitted. So this was way back kind of before it kind of blew up for real. So that was not permitted. I received a warning. Thankfully, I was not like kicked out, evicted. I did not have to pay any money, but I did receive a warning. So at that point, that is when I started researching buying my first house. Ended up buying my first house about 6 months later. That was my very first investment property. And I began to use that one on short-term rental platforms like Airbnb as well. So that is when I started to realize like, okay, I can completely eradicate my living costs by doing this. How can I continue to scale up a little bit more so that now I'm making some additional income and it's matching what I have at my full-time job? And that's actually what it came to. So I ended up going on and of course getting like another rental property, and then I built the tiny house as already mentioned, and then I started and I got 5 apartments in Midtown in here in Atlanta, Georgia. So that's kind of how I began to scale. And when I did that, and my income started to match what I was already making at my full-time job, I decided to leave my full-time job because in addition to all of the rental income that I was making, I was actually monetizing everything that I knew. So I was selling this information in ebooks, having webinars, and then I still had my podcast, which is monetized as well. So there was really money coming in, and that's when I kind of decided like, okay, I can step into this full-time. Yeah. And since stepping into the short-term rental space, it's been like 3 years now. So at this point, the dynamic has changed immensely. A lot of people know that here in Atlanta, Georgia, with the housing market and everything. So I have recently decided to stop like actively scaling my short-term rental business. If opportunity presents itself, then of course, like I'm welcome to, I guess, entertain it. But I am not actively seeking additional Airbnb units right now because I've decided to really, I guess, transition more so back into the tiny house realm. So my docuseries had did amazing. And I realized like, okay, there's really some opportunity here with how the housing market is and the housing shortage we have to show people how they can do this within their own backyard too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you definitely said a lot. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. So for the people listening, we're going to get into all the Airbnb stuff, but how did you actually get into Airbnb? Were you just looking to make extra money, or did you have a mentor? Like how did you actually get into the space?
No, so it was honestly just looking to make extra money. I've always been someone like looking, just having a side hustle, making extra money on the side. And Airbnb was one of those ways where it kind of just, again, presented itself with a Super Bowl coming here to Atlanta. You could make so much money during events like that, like large events like the Super Bowl, holidays. So even if you have just extra space in your basement, it's still very lucrative.
Okay, cool. So from the time when you got your first one to scaling up to, like, you said 5?
8 was the most that I had.
8. Okay, my fault. You know, let's put some respect on that. From scaling all the way up to 8, what would you say? Were there any like barriers going through all that? You know, let's touch on that a little bit.
Absolutely. So I would say one of the primary barriers for me was being new within this industry or in this space. So I'm not someone who, like, I don't have my real estate license. A lot of people mistake the fact that it's like, okay, when you're operating in this space at this scale, do you need a real estate license? It's not required. However, it might help in terms of some of, I guess, like the information you should know, but it then creates other restrictions if you're wanting to branch out into other, I guess, unconventional ways to be within real estate. So that's pretty much how I got started. And from that point, I lost the question. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, what were some barriers from starting to scaling up?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, initially that was one of the barriers. And then I would say another one of the major barriers are all of the regulations. So in each and every place, like even starting here in Atlanta, a lot of people thought that I had initially went out and I just got all of these apartments within, I guess, like my own name. I actually did not do that. Most of these were in my business name. And there were a lot of still even regulations that you had to look at, even though there's been this time period where you can kind of finagle your way into the business. It's always been best, or how I thought was best, to operate using my business, again, because you can go ahead and leverage that credit effectively.
Okay, perfect. So all your Airbnbs are in your business and none in your personal?
My investment property is in my investment property. So that's in my personal name, but the business expenses operate under my business.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's talk. So let's say I got good credit. Good credit meaning people listening to my podcast, they know how to build up a good profile. So let's say I got a 750 and everything. And I was doing some research. I think it was May 2020. You made a post that you joined the 800 club, right? Yeah. So let's say, I'm not a part of the 800 club. I got like a 750. Do I need like an 800? Like what should I be aware of getting into this space?
Absolutely not. So I would say you can have good firm credit and still get within the Airbnb industry. Like I would say if you're within the 700s, that's a nice strong place to start. Not to say that you cannot start lower than that. However, when you are in the 700s, that allows you to leverage your own like personal credit as a personal guarantor for your business. So you're more quickly able to get those larger amounts in terms of credit, or those larger lines of credit, because you have good credit yourself. Now, if you don't, let's say that you are lower, in that case, you are going to have to start with kind of solely building your business credit up while also trying to remediate whatever's wrong with your personal credit. But you can just start solely with business credit and not even touch your personal credit if that's something that you're working on.
Definitely. Okay, I was going to ask you, you answered my question. I was going to ask, should people go to business credit route or should they go to personal credit route? But if I have that good personal credit, why not leverage my business credit to get into it? So what would be the process of that? Let's say I don't have no LLC. I got to go get an LLC. Like, let's walk through it.
Absolutely. So of course, in order to have business credit, you need to first have a business. So absolutely, that number one first step is going to go and get your LLC. Now you want to do this at your Secretary of State's website for whatever state that you are in or you are wanting to get started. Some people ask the question of, okay, well, should I get started in Delaware or Texas because there's no state taxes? It's absolutely up to you. Consult a professional. That is not me in that realm. So number one, you want to get that LLC. Number two, go ahead and get your EIN. That's pretty much, think of it like your social security number, but for your business. It is an identifier for the IRS so that you can make sure that you're actually doing business the right way. From that point, you're going to be getting your DUNS number. Now, your DUNS number is really where you get started building, I guess, or establishing that business credit, because this is going to be the number that is associated with your business's financial history and credit profile. So you can get all of those things by yourself. You do not need to necessarily consult a professional unless you want to. You can do all of that online yourself. Now, once you start and you have that DUNS number, that is when you then go and seek these vendor accounts, trade line accounts. You might hear net 30 accounts, trade reference accounts. People call it a bunch of different names. It's all of the same thing. But understand that they're pretty much just accounts that you are able to create on vendor websites. Think of it like Amazon, JCPenney, Sam's Club, Lowe's, and they're giving you a specific credit line to use on their website. So if you're using it on their website, you can spend up to that amount for whatever your invoicing terms are. For a lot of people, it starts at net 30, meaning after 30 days, you're going to have to pay it back. But you can use that. And then once you pay it back, that is your way. They are reporting your payment so that you are building that business credit. And typically it takes, I would say, around 60 to 90 days on average if you are being consistent with your purchases and actually paying that money back on time.
Okay, perfect.